All right. Well, everyone, welcome to the January 6th, 2022 first DXdao Community Call of 2022, which is going to be a big, exciting year. We have an agenda that I will just run through and then we can dive into it. But this is also going to be pretty open, fun discussion. We have not too big of an audience here. If anyone in the audience has questions or wants to come on stage as well, raise your hand or let us know. And someone maybe watch the text chat in case someone's asking questions there. But for the agenda, we have some recaps from DXGov progress and DXDAO governance from the last maybe week or two. We're going to mention a live proposal related to DX Ventures double investment. There's a situation with hats. So DXDAO has already invested in, is a participant in the hats bug bounty system, and a forum post just came up that's DXDAO is due to put DXD into the system, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. There's an open opportunity around DXDAO's holding of current GNO holdings. There's an interesting proposal regarding a sponsorship of an esports team, and then we'll have some open discussion and questions at the end. Thanks to the Thriller who pointed out that our docs broke after 2021 ended, so we'll get that sorted. Our calendar should start working for 2022 if it's not already. And so let's start with governance, which is one of the most important things that DXDAO does. Maybe Ross, if you wanted to kind of recap anything that's been happening in the DXGov area. I know we had an interesting presentation from Augusto this week. Maybe want to mention that. Anything you want to update people
Absolutely.
on? Thanks.
So generally over the holidays, we've actually been quite got quite a lot of stuff done, and there's a release planned shortly with a bunch of bug fixes on the DX Vote side of things, and perhaps more excitingly, as Sky mentioned, we were Gusto, who I think the mad scientist role kind of fits best on, was showing us what he's been working on recently, which is signed voting, which is kind of what most people have come to expect in governance with Snapshot, and just kind of how we are planning on implementing that. It's been something we've been talking about for a long time, but obviously we're a bit more decentralized than other places, and we can't just spin up a server to share votes. And so we've been coming up with a few ways of sharing that, as well as actually verifying the votes on chain. So quite a lot of exciting stuff there. I believe there's a recording of it if anyone is interested. And we can take some questions as well, but it's still very much an experimental feature in DXVote, and it'll be going to guilds as well, hopefully. At the very least, we have support for it on the smart contract side. So quite a lot's been going on there. We've been doing a lot with guilds as well. Obviously, it's been a focus for the end of last year and the start of this year, and we're kind of aiming for release not too soon, but we're hoping it won't take too long. And generally, things have been going very well there with the new design and a lot of work being done with the team to build it properly. I don't know if there's any questions regarding governance. We've also just registered the 1.1 wallet schemes, and so they've got a couple of proposals I just put up today as well to give them some permission so we can get using them as well.
Cool. Thanks, Ross. Does anyone have any questions about that? I was just pinging the general channel to let the wider community know this has started, which Keenan probably does, and I forgot to do. Powers, if you are available, is there anything specific governance highlights from this week's call that you'd like to talk about?
So I've just been kind of getting back to things after the holidays. So yesterday's kind of catching up on the wallet scheme addition, and then also testing out the signed votes, and then a bunch of other the things you mentioned around the double investment and the Copenhagen Flames Esports proposal. I guess the other thing that's kind of been interesting is Dave's been doing some fun stuff with Curve and kind of exploring our capabilities there. So I don't know if he wants to talk about that.
Sure, I can give a quick overview. So I guess one of the nice things about our DX Vault deployment on DXdao is that we have a generic multi-call function. So we should pretty much be able to do anything directly from the DAO, which doesn't involve signatures nor any slippage involved, of course, given that the proposal needs time to pass, which means that we can actually do quite a lot of things now directly from the treasury. All of which is, for example, swapping stable coins on Curve. So Curve is relatively easy to call the exchange function. You just have to pass the tokens you want to swap, and then you just set the amount you want to swap and the minimum you want to receive back. So there's no percentage or slippage involved. And given that they're stables to stables, it's relatively easy for the DAO to swap directly between stable coins for now. It would probably also work if Curve had a ETH stable pool. We would probably just have to set the minimum somewhat lower, and then the trade goes through at the best available price at the given moment anyway. Probably some risk of front running or something like that, but yeah. So actually that's quite exciting, and we might actually also be able to use cow swap because they also support a different way of signing. So I believe you can just send a transaction from the address you want to trade with as data the same address, and they kind of use this to enable DAOs or any smart contract that doesn't have a private key to be able to trade on there. But that's something we're still looking into. And last I checked, the cow swap contract's also not yet verified on Scout, so I'm actually going to check if they did that in the meantime. Yeah, that's pretty much it for that. Yeah, so quite exciting to be able to kind of do stuff directly from the DAO avatar, which is something we potentially would also be able to do on mainnet, but currently is a lot more complicated process as we don't. I think actually we have a multi-core on mainnet, right? But it's extremely long to pass. Something along those lines. Is that right, John?
Yes, it's more restricted on mainnet in a few ways. The period to pass is longer. There's also a whitelist for which contracts you can interact with, and they also cannot send funds. So it's just a much more limited on mainnet.
Cool. Yeah, it's good to have that ability on DXdao, now Gnosis chain, to experiment with these new features of DX Vote, DXGov, and at some point, these things can be rolled out to mainnet when necessary in safer ways with different schemes and things. So that's kind of a roundup of governance from this couple weeks. We'll move to DX Ventures. There's a few things in the pipeline that are kicking off 2022. The one that's live is Double, which is D2 Labs, has made a kind of a contract proposal for investment grant to DXdao for $100,000 investment grant into their company, which it's in the proposal. It's structured. It shows the exact details of how this investment is structured. It is a investment grant from a DXdao on-chain perspective, but it's holding the same terms as the other investors in this round. which is governed by like a Y Combinator safe. And so that is referenced in the proposal, which is kind of a first of for DXdao, at least, and maybe all DAOs, where that's in an on-chain proposal. And so that looks like that is going to pass. Double's a pretty interesting, I guess we've talked about it for a while, but it's a pretty interesting kind of tool within the DeFi space that can be used in a number of ways. And so having a close partnership alignment with Double and DXdao, we can benefit each other's communities and leverage, a close relationship. And so that's a pretty exciting investment. On the DX Venture side, there's also probably an upcoming proposal related to Atlantis World, which we've been talking about for a while. And then there's a newer potential one with Karma Protocol. Excuse me. I don't know if anyone had any questions about those topics. I'll just check the chat here. Nope.
I don't want to put Dave on the spot again, but if I think it would be really interesting for the audience if he would like to mention a couple of words for what we're doing with the esports sponsorship.
Yeah, I saw it's on the agenda. I don't know, Sky, do you want me to go now, or are you following the agenda, or?
Yeah, I guess that ties in with governance. That there's a live proposal right now, and also ties in with it's not really an investment. It's more of it's a marketing investment. It's a marketing expense. So yeah, it is on the agenda. I think we can do that. It is a live proposal. So if you could give some background and the exciting parts, you go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So let me just collect my thoughts. So there's a proposal live to sponsor an esports organization called Copenhagen Flames for $100,000 for 1 year sponsorship. And I think to start, the main idea here was to kind of course, spreading some awareness of DXdao in general, but also looking at what type of audience we could potentially even onboard into the Web3 space rather than tackling or fighting for the current existing Web3 consumer base. And so esports was a natural kind of sector, I would say, given that the community is already the tools they use are very overlapping, like Discord, Twitter, etc. And they also tend to be relatively young people and very tech native and tech savvy, similar to the Web3 space. And I think there are three main angles to this proposal. So the first one is quite clearly marketing. So the sponsorship also includes a logo of DXdao on the Copenhagen Flames jersey. So Copenhagen Flames, the esport orgs, plays competitively in Counter-Strike, Fortnite, and FIFA. They last year qualified to the Counter-Strike major, so the grand final of CS, which is a massive event, and a few million people watch it, a ton. And that's kind of one of the aspects, the pure marketing aspect, of course. The second one is more, as I mentioned before earlier, onboarding some people into Web3 and doing some educational content about DAOs. So Copenhagen Flames will also be doing some educational content using their players and setting up some funny skits and stuff like that to kind of teach their audience what a DAO is and what governance is in a decentralized way. And you can also check their YouTube channel. There's some previous stuff they've done with sponsors, so they have a relatively high production quality ability. They also organize tournaments themselves and stuff, which might also come in handy, but is not really related to this proposal now. And then the last and kind of big driver, in my opinion, is actually adoption of DXGov potentially. So we spoke to a couple of different esports orgs while looking into this. And Copenhagen Flames were really the ones that were most open to also experimenting with some on-chain fan governance. Overall, as an organization, they are quite open and involved with their fans. So they also have boot camps and try to be as involved with their fans as they can. And, one of the main goals and, ways to measure the success of this sponsorship, I would say, is, whether it's in 6 or 8 or 9 months is irrelevant, but actually launching either a mini DAO for Copenhagen Flames or a guild, but kind of like establishing this core DXGov architecture in the esports world. I think in an initial part, it would look something like a decentralized Socios.com. So Socios.com is like a centralized version where you can buy fan tokens, etc. And I think if we can build something along those lines, which acts similarly to Socios, and have it powered by DXGov infrastructure, that would be really amazing. And I think that's really what we want to see at the end. And Copenhagen Flames are very open to this. And they're also eventually open to a full DAO owning an esports team, which would include ownership, etc. But of course, that's a much more long-term view, as there's a lot of legal implications there as well and stuff like that. But yeah, that's really the summary. And if the proposal passes, you'll soon also be able to buy some Copenhagen Flames jerseys with a DXdao logo on it. Or if you find us at a conference, you might get us one for free.
Yeah, that's truly amazing, Dave. Great work. Gnosis just recently merged with the former XDAO chain, and the network is now called Gnosis Chain. And DXDAO is a part of the newly formed Gnosis Chain Innovation DAO, kind of a decentralized consortium of the dApps that have been thus far deployed on the former XDAO chain. And during a recent talk with the team at Gnosis, it seems like the end goal is user onboarding. And with this esports initiative, DXdao will once again be breaking new ground and innovating in the space. It's incredible that no one else has done it thus far. And it's really exciting that DXdao could lead this endeavor.
Absolutely, yeah. And one great thing I also believe is that we're not really building a product specifically for them. It just piggybacks of what we're building anyway with DXGov. So it's not really an extra effort on our side. It would just be relaunching what we already have with probably some custom branding and stuff for them. But I think that's a really nice angle to it as well, yeah.
Yeah. And Gnosis has been named by community members as the DAO of DAOs, because for the past year, a lot of DAOs have been spawned due to the fast and cheap transactions on the network. And DXDAO has been probably the leading major DAO with a lot of on-chain proposals and transactions going on. I believe if Gnosis Chain is really officially termed as the network of DAOs, and DXDAO could proudly take the spot of the DAO of DAOs, building the infrastructure. And it, again, as Dave said, it's not something that we are just focusing on and starting to do it from the onset, from the get-go. It's been what DXDAO has been working hard on, and it's finally kind of starting to bear fruit.
Awesome. Hopefully the DXdao community has an opportunity to go to maybe one of these one of the competitions that the Flames compete in like a big stadium. That'd be a great place to get the community together.
Yeah, if anyone's in Europe in February, unfortunately, there's a really big event they're playing at in February, which would have been cool if some of us went as well. It overlaps with ETH Denver, so I think the majority of us will be in the US. But otherwise, I think that could have also been a cool opportunity to go and watch them and support them. Yeah.
Sweet. Look out for the next one. Great. Yeah, so that's another big thing happening early 2022 with DXdao. We got a lot of big things happening. Next big thing is related to hats. So DXdao invested in hats, is a user of hats, and there's a DXD vault, which is a vault of value that is protecting smart contracts and products. Yeah, well, bug bounty program in the DXdao ecosystem. That is set up, that is live. Anyone can go put DXD into that vault and start actually, earning and farming hat tokens, in as you are protecting DXDAO products. But at the same time, there is a live forum post, which will likely lead to a proposal for DXDAO itself to deposit a certain amount, X amount of DXD value into the vault to incentivize, white hat bug bounty hunters. And so, what's his name? His handle, Sombrero. I'm not sure who Sombrero is. Oh, that's Ophir. Yeah, he just we set this up a while ago, and we got hung up by a bunch of other things, and so we're just revisiting. It's probably now a good time to actually make that deposit. If there's discussion around how much value is appropriate to put into the vault, the idea that's been talked about and thrown around recently is about $500,000 of value, and that was about 790 DXD, as the price moves around, I guess. But if that is an appropriate amount this is not a cost, this is like a deposit of this DXD into this vault, and it would theoretically only be spent if people were reporting, big problems or bugs regarding DXDAO's contracts to a trusted set of DXDAO developers. And so at that point, it's worth the spend. And so what's interesting is you could compare it to, just the last couple of weeks, there was a white hat submission, a bug submission I guess it happened a month or so ago, to the Polygon blockchain echo project. And it turns out like $24 billion or whatever were at risk. And Immunify, which is another bug bounty program, similar to Hats with a kind of a different setup, maybe a more centralized version of it, the bugs were reported through that bug bounty system, and the solutions were implemented, and the problem was solved, and the bug bounty was paid out to a couple different people that were white hat reporters of that problem. So it just shows the power of actual having real bug bounty programs in place, and that's something that DXDAO has never really had. And so this is not only a good opportunity to implement that, but it's with a group building a decentralized version of that, and a team that DXdao community knows quite well. And so happy to move that forward. If anyone here had any thoughts or comments or opinions on the size or how much to put into the vault, and feel free to.
I would also like to add that this brings good news to DXD holders. The reason why DXDAO chose Hats over Immunify is because Hats takes it to another level, and it introduces a new primitive in DeFi called security farming. It would not only be the DAOs and protocols themselves putting bounties, but token holders, community token holders can also stake their tokens and earn hats for contributing to the security of their beloved protocols. So people community members who own DXD token can now earn yield on their asset by staking it in the Hats vaults, helping secure DXDAO's contracts, and at the same time earning hat tokens. But of course, everyone should do their own research, because there are certain risks involved. The staked amount could be, a portion of it could be pledged in case a white hacker finds a bug, so that there's a trade-off. But of course, that's why there are rewards and there's yield being earned for the staking.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. And there's already, I think there's like 7 or 8 different community projects already on the Hat system, including Claros and actually Hats itself, which is cool, like dog fooding its own product. So you can actually participate in any of those communities. And I think that my guess is that that list of projects will grow rather quickly now that it's live and as money starts to flow in. It makes a lot of sense, and I expect that list of projects and vaults to grow rapidly over the next few months.
Liquidity B protocol, and it looks now like Paraswap as well, are some of the other well-known projects that are set up in Hats with a vault.
Cool. Yeah, we should. We have published a few things in the past about this, but I think we may be one of the only communities that was like a supporter, a grant supporter investor in Hats and a user, and so that's that gives us a two-pronged advantage. And so maybe as this becomes more popular and grows, like we should from a marketing angle make it more known how kind of involved we are, and from both angles. That could get some good publicity, I think. Cool. So what else do we have on the agenda? We talked about the flames, and the last topic we have set is related to the merger acquisition of XDAI chain turning into Gnosis chain. There, as part of that, there is a ongoing opportunity to swap your your stake into GNO token at a set exchange rate, and DXdao is a holder of stake token, has been using it, I think, as in liquidity, and there's a proposal to bring that out and bring it into the dev multisig in order to convert it to GNO. And then there's been some discussion around what to actually do with the GNO, because there's an opportunity with CowSwap's token coming, or Gnosis Protocol V2 token coming. To GNO holders will get an airdrop, and there's also potentially an opportunity to invest or buy Cow token with GNO, or potentially options on Cow token. So all of the details are not known exactly, but there's been an effort already, a move to move the GNO into the multisig that would give more flexibility. Move the stake into the multisig to give more flexibility to take advantage of any opportunities that come in this upcoming. I'm not sure exactly when it is. It's probably happening in January. Sale and distribution of Cow token. Well, that's the Cow token is an additional thing, but swapping our stake to GNO is something we want to do. I believe we want to do as a first step. But so keep an eye on that. If there's anything anyone else wanted to add around that, or questions. Nope. Cool. Anyone in the audience have anything they want to talk about or come on stage and ask or discuss? Fun stuff, DXdao stuff, DeFi stuff, DGen stuff. Zet, maybe. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna start shooting the breeze. Be like Federal Reserve minutes. What do we want to talk about here?
I guess one other interesting topic is there is some initial discussions around potential opportunities with Swapper token. Swapper token is still being distributed. The governance token, obviously the price has been in a downward trend, but there's still, Swapper is a tool that DXdao and its growing ecosystem is going to be able to use in a very valuable way. We can, with more focus, I think we could become a big part of the Gnosis chain ecosystem. We were just looking at some of the stats. I think we have 3 pools in the top 8 pools on Gnosis chain, without even kind of thinking about it. Yeah, we could really lean into that potentially. One of the biggest advantages I think that DXDAO has is we have our own capital. So if we wanted to, like tomorrow, we could become 7 of the biggest 10 pools of tokens of our choosing, pairs of our choosing on Gnosis chain, and become the number 1 DEX on Gnosis chain, and either alter this what's happening with Swapper token, stop giving it out, give it out in a different way, give it out only through Carrot, and still be the largest DEX on Gnosis chain. So it's something we should kind of dive deeper into, and we are discussing it. If anyone in the community has ideas around this, token economics, knows people who are interested in token economics, have ideas around these tokens, or using DXdao capital in pairs and which pairs and things, would be great to have you come join the Swapper discussions. But I think it's a pretty attractive opportunity at this point. And then we are also talking about where should Swapper live in general? Like, is there reason to expand Swapper to other chains, whether those be L2s, side chains, or other layer 1s? And so that's also an interesting discussion that's taking place. And so if anyone here in the audience or on stage wants to talk about these things, if you have any opinions, could be fun to chat about now.
To your first point about Gnosis chain, I do think it makes sense to make a push to try to make Swapper one of, or not the number 1 DEX by liquidity outside of Curve on Gnosis chain, because I think we're pretty close to HoneySwap, and then Sushi is, like, I would say within striking distance, for Swapper. So doubling down there and trying to establish Swapper as the exchange on Gnosis chain, I think makes a lot of sense. Like you said, capital could come from the treasury to help bolster that. We could maybe refocus some of the rewards from Arbitrum, where Swapper has sort of fallen down the ranks against some of the other competitive exchanges there.
Yeah,
So I like that idea.
How would people here feel about, like, let's take $10 million from DXDAO's treasury, figure out like maybe 10 or 15 pairs that we would like to target, and obviously this comes with risk, because if we use our capital, we also buy these tokens, right? So depending on what the pair is, we would be diversifying into more tokens that DXDAO doesn't currently have exposure to, and then obviously there's impermanent loss and things, but it so far that we haven't seen a big risk around that stuff. And so if we took $10 million and really put it into certain pairs, we could become 10 of the top 15 pairs on Gnosis chain, and everyone would start trading on those pairs, because they would be like 10 of the most important pairs, I think. Maybe even more than that. $10 million, we could probably become the main DEX for 20 different pairs.
I think 10 million additional TVL into Swapper would make Swapper like the number one, like, Uniswap style AMM on Gnosis chain. But yeah, of course, you'd want to consider, I think, the exposure to different assets. Like, for example, DXdao does have some DPI, and that's traded very poorly against Ether since I think we acquired it, right? We'd want to be a little bit careful. I mean, especially seeing things go bearish, we wouldn't want to put too much risk on the treasury or the runway. But I think especially where it could fit into the treasury diversification strategy, deploying more capital to Swapper, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So I guess we do that in a measured approach. The tricky thing is if like the way to protect against what you just described of like bear market would be focusing more on stable coins, but stable coins is kind of dominated by curve. So those are less attractive and less important on Swapper. So we kind of have to delve off into other important non-stable coins. And Martin did say, like, okay, Martin's personal view, but even though like attracting users to Gnosis chain is like one of the main goals, he agrees that the top 25 or 50 ERC20 tokens on mainnet Ethereum, it would be ideal to have those have decent sized pools on Gnosis chain where someone could say buy $10,000 worth of whatever token that is without having a significant impact on the market. And so that expresses like a desire to achieve what we have the ability to execute, I think. And we just need to figure out, I think, what those tokens might be.
Yeah, and just like putting some numbers around this, just looking at the XDAI. So there's about $3 million worth of DXdao liquidity in Swapper on XDAI right now, and that's out of a total of 6.2 million TVL. So just under like 45% of Swapper XDAI TVL is DXdao funds, and 1.8 million of that 3 million is in the WEF XDAI pair, which has been very successful. Right now, you can see over the last 7 days, it's had $1.3 million in volume. And I think that's the one that is really like the prime or the crown jewel of Swapper on XDAI is this WEF XDAI pair. But outside of that pair, the other three have not been that particularly successful. John mentioned the WEF DPI one. Of course, DPI has not done well, but it has also really not attracted any volume very much. The WEF WBTC has done like okay in terms of volume, but really not that great. And the USDC XDAI pool has actually done like a little bit better than you'd expect in terms of volume, given that curve is there. But really, I think the question is like, what pairs will drive volume, right? And what can we recreate that is like this WEF XDAI pair? And I also think we should be open to reallocating some of the other ones that have not proven to have good volume.
Cool.
Yeah, I was just trying to pull up because Sushi has 12 million TVL and HoneySwap has 8 million. So maybe another look at kind of what is succeeding there. And yeah, but maybe the tact is not to compete directly with, say, like HoneySwap, but maybe try to target pairs that are missing, right? That are kind of key, like, bigger ERC20 tokens that just aren't trading yet that much on XDAI.
Cool. Yeah, we got 15 minutes left in the hour, but we don't need to go the whole time. I think this was a productive community call, covered a lot of different things. if there's nothing else, I guess we can call it here.
Thanks for
Yeah,
hosting, Sky.
good one.
You're welcome.
Thanks for
Thanks,
everyone for
everyone.
attending. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Bye.
See y'all.